Now we are discussing with a lesson called System of Particles and Rotational Motion. In the discussion of this lesson, we should go to the introduction part and the comparison of the introduction part to the previous chapters. So what is the system of particles and its rotational motion? Previously, we have discussed the Newton's laws of motion and work power energy concepts. In these two concepts, nothing but the mechanics, kinematics and dynamics. So in mechanics, there are two branches, kinematics. Second one is dynamics. In these two branches, we have treated the object as a point mass. So therefore, object is a point mass. That means whatever may be the examples based on the concept of Newton's laws of motion or dynamics. We have taught that there are two bodies, and these two bodies we have assumed like masses, some ma and me, means mass of body A and mass of body B. These two are treated as a point masses, and these two collided, and after the collision and before collision, what are the changes in the momentum and their velocities? We have found all these examples. Means in kinematics and dynamics, our assumption is a point mass body dynamics or point mass body kinematics. So this is valid for microscopic objects. But the next level of object is macroscopic object. So what is the meaning of macroscopic object? Macroscopic object means the object which is at bigger size. Huge dimensions. The meaning of the huge dimension is big size, heavy mass and rigid in structure. That's why these macroscopic objects are also called rigid bodies. But when we apply this kinematics and dynamics to the rigid bodies, the laws what are valid for the microscopic doesn't valid here. Because in macroscopic object, due to the bigger in size and heavy volume and heavy dimensions, we can treat these macroscopic object as some system of particles, not as a point mass, combination of the different point masses. So it's a combination of different point masses. While these all point masses are collectively grouped in a finite structure and a regular structure like circle or square or rectangle, there is a problem will occur. The problem is center of mass. This is the one of the biggest topic which separates the microscopic and macroscopic objects to different levels. So what is the meaning of this center of mass, how it is related to the rigid bodies, and the physical quantities that are related to the center of mass we will go to discuss now. So what is the meaning of rigid bodies? The dictionary meaning of the rigid is very strong. A huge body. So it's a strong body which does not deforms easily. Deformation means change in the dimensions of the body or change in the structure. If you see the definition, We can explain this definition like this. Rigid body is such a physical body, it's such a physical system which does not deform easily. Means it is very difficult or impossible to change the structure of the body. Those bodies are called rigid bodies. Suppose if this is the marker, if I want to break this marker into two fragments, it is very difficult for me. But the same dimensions of a candle, I can easily break it out. So we can say that when you compare a candle with this marker, marker is treated to be a rigid body because very difficult to deform it. If you see a metal wheel, a brick, or any metal object which has the same finite dimensions and finite shape, very difficult to break it or very difficult to change the structure by applying the small amount of force. If you see any metal object, if that worker who is doing the work with the metals, if he wants to fold that metal into the designed shape, it is very difficult by applying the small amount of force. He used to keep on hammering that metal. So like that he can bring some shape from that given ore of the metal. That means he should apply the force, keep on doing it, then only the change in the structure is possible. So for small amount of forces, for small magnitudes, deformation is not an easy point, or deformation is not an easy task for the rigid bodies. So these bodies are called rigid bodies. For these rigid bodies, there are two types of motions are possible. First one is translatory motion. Second one is rotatory motion. Now we will discuss what is these different types of motion. The first one is translatory motion. This is one of the such type of motions which are possible for the rigid bodies. Let us take a solid object which is in the dimensions of square or rectangle or circular, whatever it may be. This is a rectangular type body which was placed at the top edge of an inclined plane. According to the introduction as was given for this lesson, rigid bodies are treated to be system of particles, not a point mass. It is a combination of n number of system of particles. Because of that, we can assume some particles which are regularly or randomly arranged within it. So this is a rigid body. This body was in rest until and unless an external force is applied on it. We are using Newtonian's mechanics to solve these problems in the rotatory motion and system of particles. Whenever the force is applied, the body is simply sliding on the inclined plane. This is the direction of sliding. The direction of sliding is always in the direction of the applied force. We know that. Whenever this particle is sliding on an inclined plane, the particles of this rigid body all are united in the same direction to move. Because the direction from one particle, another particle, another particle, another particle. So we can draw number of arrow marks from the different system of particles which are placed in the rigid body, but all particles are moving in the same direction according to the applied force direction. That means if the number of particles or system of particles in a rigid body are united to move in the same direction along with the body, that motion is called translatory motion. If the system of particles are united to move along the same direction, with respect to the direction of applied force. That motion is called translatory motion. So, if the system of particles are united to move along the same direction which are placed in a rigid body with respect to the direction of applied force is called translatory motion. This is the possible motion for the rigid bodies. The example for the translatory motion are the bodies which are sliding on an inclined plane without deforming its shape or structure. So, all sliding bodies on inclined plane are the best examples for the translatory motion. The second different style of motion is rotatory motion or rotational motion. So, what is these possibilities? Take a rigid body. If you see the examples like giant wheel, flywheel, those are the examples for the rotational motion, but how it can be defined? If you take a circular body like this, automatically there should be a fixed point which is exactly passes through the origin of the circle. Through that we can assume a rotatory axis. With respect to that axis, the body is moving, maybe in clockwise direction or anti-clockwise direction. So, this is the reference. Suppose if this circular body which was fixed to a rotatory frame, a rotatory axis, whether it is doing the oscillations in clockwise direction or anti-clockwise direction, let us suppose some clockwise direction. This is the system of particles. These are the particles which are moving in the direction of the applied force, because the force was applied in the direction of clockwise direction. We know that according to the mechanics, the force direction and the direction of movement both are equal along the same direction. So, here the system of particles which are placed in this type of rigid body are moving about a fixed point. About a fixed point or fixed axis, that axis is called rotatory axis. So, if the particles or system of particles which are placed in a rigid body are moving about a fixed point, or means are united to move about a fixed point, not along the fixed point, it is called rotatory motion. If the system of particles of a rigid body are united to move about a fixed point, almost like origin or fixed rotatory axis, along with the direction of force, is called rotational motion. So, what are the examples for the rotational motion? So, it's a ceiling fan, next we can say table fan, because all they are executing the circular motions. The third example, flywheel, giant wheel. These are all the examples. They have a rotatory axis. Around it they will move in clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. If the body, the same type of circular body, is placed on an inclined plane, it will roll down. In this rolling, the body is moving along the direction of force, but the particles which are inside the system are united along with the rotatory axis. So here this body is executing translatory plus rotatory is equal to rolling motion. So the diagram will be like this. Body is moving along the direction of applied force, but the particles which are inside the body are moving about the rotatory axis. Translatory plus rotatory is called rolling. So these are the two important motions that are possible to a rigid body. So while these rigid bodies are moving, they can execute the motion for each particle of the mass. So for all masses, there is a locus. That locus is called center of mass. The next concept is center of mass. It is not an imaginary point and it is not an imaginary position of a body. So it actually exists. So we can observe the center of mass of the body by doing some small experiments with our fingers by placing an object on our fingers. So how it can be defined? It is a point within the body or outside the body where all the mass, the total mass of the body appear to be concentrated and it moves along with the force applied. It is a position or point which is inside the body or outside the body, or we can write point within the body or outside the body within the body or outside the body where the total mass of the body is concentrated of the body is concentrated and moves along with the direction of applied force. This is the nature of the center of mass. So it is a position or point within the body or outside the body where the total mass of the body is concentrated and moves along with the direction of the applied force. This is also called locus of all point masses within the body. All point masses within the body. So the symbol of this is Cm, so center of mass. We can see some examples for the motion of the center of mass. So what are those examples to describe the center of mass? So it is examples of center of mass. The first example, example 1. Try to observe a body which is rolling on an smooth plane or inclined plane like this. This is the horizontal plane. This is the body rolling. This is horizontal plane. The next one, we can assume the same rolling motion on an inclined plane also. So, what we can understand in these two cases, if the body is rolling on an horizontal plane or inclined plane, the point which are at the edges of the rotating body or rolling body is doing both translational and rotational motion. Not all, suppose it contains some n particles which are inside, not all are executing the translatory plus rotatory. Only they are in touch with the horizontal plane or inclined plane, they are executing the rotatory as well as translatory. So here we can say that if the body is rolling down, its mass here actually it is concentrated here. According to the direction of the rolling, it is going to up and this part is coming down. So if the body is simply leaning or dependent on the horizontal plane or inclined plane, their position of the center of mass is continuously changing. That's why it is rotating or it is rolling. If the center of mass position is not changing, the body will completely fix it to that position as initially stated. So what we can understand is the position of the center of mass is changing with respect to the portion of the mass. This leads to the another concept. So the particles which are near to the surface or not near or exactly on the surface. We can write like this also. Exactly on the surface, they can execute or they are executing. They are means the particles. Both translatory plus rotatory. Translatory plus rotatory motions. Why this is possible actually? Because the position of the center of mass is completely changing according to the direction of the mass. So the position of the center of mass is changing. This is like we can see the examples for the center of mass. The second example is, let us assume an Indian club was thrown from one person to another person via air like this. So jar type material, it was thrown. Initially it is exactly like this. It was thrown from one person to another person via air. So this is the starting point, let us say A. Then this is the position of the body in the air. We will see the intervals of the trajectory motion of the body. Next it will simply changes like this. Next it is exactly like this. Next this body will simply tilt like this. Next more tilting. And completely it will fall down to like this. Anyway, it is reaching to the another end. Let us say this is position B. If you see this object which was thrown from point A to point B, in air and it is reaching from one person to the another person, if we draw this trajectory, it almost occupies the shape of a parabola. So it is a parabolic path. In this parabolic path, not all the particles are executing the translatory or rotatory, but few are executing the translatory motion as well as rotatory motion. Rotatory plus translatory. If the particles or majority of the particles are executing the translatory motion, we can assume that this body is maintaining or moving with to equal distances and equal intervals of time. So if majority of the particles are in translatory motion, then the particles are executing the uniform motion. So what we can understand in this concept is, if majority of the particles are executing translatory motion, therefore the center of mass also purely translational. So in this case, the motion of center of mass is purely translational. So what we can understand, not all the particles are influencing the center of mass, only few that are in the majority in the nature, either translational or rotation, they are influencing the mass of the body or motion of the body. These small particles are called center of mass or center of inertia. So we can assume the center of mass like this also. It is a point where the motion of the entire body is controlled. It is a point where the motion of the body is controlled. The next point to be discussed is coordinates of center of mass. Coordinates means the physical quantities that are associated with the center of mass. It means that are useful to describe the center of mass. Let us assume the first situation. Center of mass of a two-particle system along a horizontal line. We should find out the center of mass of a two-particle system which is placed along a straight line or horizontal line. For that purpose, we should assume a picture. This is the origin. This is the line from the origin. Just assume 2 points. In these 2 points or 2 positions, we have assumed 2 masses. Let us suppose m1, m2. Between the m1 and m2, we are assuming the C, or nothing but the center of mass. The distance from O to m1 and O to m2 are different. So, what we can understand. Continue. So, the particle m1 is at a distance of x1 from origin. The particle m2 is at a distance of x2 from origin. The center of mass is at a distance of xcm from origin. m1 to center of mass, the distance is d1, and center of mass to m2, the distance is d2. So let me write all those. m1 comma m2 are masses. Cm is center of mass. x1 is the distance of the mass m1 from the origin. Distance to m1 from origin. At the same time, x2 is the distance to m2 from origin, and xcm is the distance to center of mass from origin. So what we can understand is, if masses are same and their distance is also equal with respect to the center of mass, we can write m1 d1 is equal to m2 d2, nothing but the mechanical advantage or mechanical equilibrium. Advantage or mechanical equilibrium. What is the meaning of mechanical advantage or mechanical equilibrium? If two particles are nothing but the two masses which has equivalent magnitudes are separated by equal distance from the center of mass, then we can assume the whole system is under the stability. That is said to be mechanical advantage or mechanical equilibrium. Equilibrium tends to stability. So from this we can write d1 by d2 is equal to m2 by m1. Now we should find out this d1 and d2 values and substitute in this equation. So from the figure, d1 is equal to, we can write xcm minus x1. Because up to the center of mass it is xcm, and if you remove the distance of m1 from origin, this one, this xcm minus x1, this part will belong to d1. And as well as d2 is equal to d2 up to here. So x2 minus xcm. So we have the equation m1 d1 is equal to m2 d2. Now I am substituting this d1 and d2 values in this standard equation. Therefore, m1 into, what is d1? xcm minus x1 is equal to m2 into, what is d2? x2 minus xcm. I am expanding on both sides. m1 xcm minus m1 x1 is equal to m2 x2 minus m2 xcm. So I am bringing all m1, m and x and center of mass terms to the different sides. So therefore, m1 xcm plus m2 xcm is equal to m2 x2 plus m1 x1. So if I take xcm as common, we can write this one as m1 plus m2 is equal to m1 x1 plus m2 x2. Therefore, xcm is equal to m1 x1 by plus m2 x2 by m1 plus m2. So this is the equation of center of mass for a two particle system which are placed along a horizontal line. So center of mass xcm is equal to m1 x1 plus m2 x2 by m1 plus m2. So center of mass depends on the masses and their positions with respect to the origin. Suppose m1 to cm is d1, cm to m2 is d2, but the whole distance from m1 to m2 is, let us say, small d. So we can write small d is equal to d1 plus d2. From this we can write d2 is equal to d minus d1. Now I am substituting this d minus d1 in place of the standard equation. m1 d1 is equal to m2 d2. So m1 d1 is equal to m2 into d minus d1. Therefore it is m2 d minus m2 d1 is equal to m1 d1. Therefore it is m1 d1 plus m2 d1 is equal to m2 d. So therefore d1 of m1 plus m2 is equal to m2 d. Therefore d1 is equal to m2 d by m1 plus m2. Similarly, d2 is equal to m1 d by m1 plus m2. So these are the two equations which represents the distance of the actual positions of the masses from center of mass. So the same formula is useful to find the center of mass for n particles. A center of mass of n particles. So therefore it is equal to xcm, that is equal to m1 x1 plus m2 x2 and so on mn xn by m1 plus m2 plus m3 and so on mn. So it is almost equal to the total mass of the system because we are adding the all small elementary masses. So that's why this xcm can be written as 1 by capital M into summation over I is equal to 1 to n mi xi. So where capital M is equal to m1 plus m2 and so on mn. So this is the formula of the center of mass of a two particle system, or which is applied or extended to the n particle system also. So the next concept is center of mass of a system with two coordinates or two variables. Two coordinates. Two coordinates means it's like a 2D representation, x and y. It is like this, xcm comma ycm. It has a coordinate with respect to the coordinate system. It is a position with respect to the two-dimensional coordinate system. Position of center of mass in a 2D coordinate system. Therefore, this can be written like this: xcm is equal to m1 x1 plus m2 x2 plus m3 x3 and so on mn xn by m1 plus m2 plus m3 and so on mn. So this can be written as 1 by capital M into summation over I is equal to 1 to n into mi xi is equal to xcm. So this is the x coordinates of the center of mass. What about the y coordinate? We can write ycm is equal to m1 y1 m2 y2 plus m3 y3 and so on, mn yn by m1 plus m2 plus m3 and so on mn. Therefore, it can be written as 1 by capital M into summation over I is equal to 1 to n mi yi. Therefore, if you are finding the center of mass along the x direction, we can represent the positions of that particular mass along the x direction, and in y direction we should represent the positions of that particular mass along the y direction. Means what position it is representing with respect to x axis for xcm, with respect to y axis in ycm. The third one is center of mass of a particle in space, nothing but 3D system. So 3D system. So we can assume a point like this. It is having some distance along from x-axis, distance along y-axis, from z-axis also it is having some distance. So this point is represented by a locus of 3 different dimensions of the system: x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. So with respect to that, we know that xcm is equal to m1 x1 plus m2 x2 plus and so on m1 xn by m1 plus m2 and so on mn. So this can be written as 1 by capital M into summation over I is equal to 1 to n mi xi. Similarly, ycm is equal to m1 y1 plus m2 y2 plus and so on mn yn whole divided by m1 plus m2 and so on mn. So in this case, we can write the formula like this: 1 by capital M into summation mi yi, where I is equal to 1 to n. But in a 3D system, along with the x-axis and y-axis, we should represent the position of the particle or point mass with respect to z-axis also. So the z coordinate of the center of system is like this: m1 z1 plus m2 z2 and so on mn zn whole divided by m1 plus m2 and so on mn. So in the short form, this can be written as 1 by capital M into summation over mi zi, where I is equal to 1 to n. By observing these 3 coordinates of the center of mass in 3 different axes, we can write that capital M is equal to m1 plus m2 and so on up to mn. Means nothing but it is the sum of the all n masses which are representing the total mass of the given system. So sum of all point masses. So in 1D, it is simply a center of mass Cm. In 2D, it is xcm and ycm. In 3D, nothing but the space, it is xcm, ycm and zcm. This is the problem which is related to the concept of center of mass in a 2-dimensional. So find the center of mass of a uniform L-shaped lamina with dimensions as shown in the figure. The mass of the lamina is 3 kg. So this is the figure which represents the shape of the lamina. So there are 3 center of masses which are at a distance of half meter each, because this portion is 1 meter. Center of mass for this 1 meter is exactly half of 1 meter, nothing but 1 by 2 kg. So this is 1 meter, half meter. C2 again from here to here it is, means The end of the C1 to the end of C2, it is 1 meter, but the C2 is located at half meter. So we should find out the center of mass along x-axis as well as y-axis. If we coordinate it, it is nothing but the coordinate of center of mass. So in this case, so what is the mass of the lamina? It is 3 kg, but it is divided into 3 equal parts. So each part is 1 kg. Capital M is 3 kg. So we can write M1 is equal to M2 is equal to M3 is equal to 1 kg each. So therefore, XCM is equal to M1 x1 plus M2 x2 plus M3 x3 whole divided by M1 plus M2 plus M3. Therefore, M1, M2, M3 all are 1 kg each. Therefore, it is 1 into. So what is x1? This is x1. Here it is 1 meter. So C1 is located exactly at the half of the 1 meter. That's why M1 x1 is half plus M2 is 1. Where is x2? It is half, half plus half 1, 1 plus half 3 by 2. Therefore it is 1 into 3 by 2 plus M3 is also 1. So x3 is we can say it is at half by 1 plus 1 plus 1. Therefore it is half plus 3 by 2 plus half whole divided by 3. So XCM is equal to 2 is the LCM. So therefore it is 1 plus 3 plus 1 by 3. Therefore it is 5 by 6. XCM is 5 by 6. So if you see the YCM means center of mass coordinate of y-axis, M1 y1 plus M2 y2 plus M3 y3 whole divided by M1 plus M2 plus M3. Therefore, YCM is equal to, we know that M1, M2, M3 are 1 kg each. Therefore, 1 into Y1. So this is Y1. So from Y axis, it is at half. Y2, nothing but the center of mass, it is at 3 by 2. And C2 is also at 3 by 2. So it is 1 into half plus 1 into 3 by 2 by 1 plus 1 plus 1. Therefore, it is again half plus 3 by 2 whole divided by 3. It is also 5 by 6. So the center of mass coordinate for this given lamina is XCM comma YCM is equal to 5 by 6 plus 5 by 6. So this is the problem which is related to the center of mass of a 3D system. So the content is find the center of mass of the 3 particles which are placed at the vertices of an equilateral triangle. The masses of the particles are 100 grams, 150 grams and 200 grams respectively. Each side of the equilateral triangle is 0.5 meters along. So it is a system of 3 coordinates, but it is a 2D system. So in this case, we should find out the XCM as well as YCM. So let me write the coordinates on the x-axis and y-axis. So the first mass 100 grams is placed at the origin, nothing but the first vertices of the triangle. So its coordinate system is 0, 0. 200 grams is placed exactly middle of this equilateral triangle. That's why it is along the x-axis. It is 0.25 comma 0. 150 grams is 0.5 comma 0. But for the y coordinates, it is 0, 0. This 200 grams is 0.25 root 3 because this is 0.5. So this is 0.25. If you applied the right angle triangles theory, nothing but the Pythagoras theorem, this side will become 0.25 root 3. So these are the coordinate systems. Now we are substituting these values in the formula. XCM is equal to m1 x1 plus m2 x2 plus m3 x3 whole divided by m1 plus m2 plus m3. Therefore, XCM is equal to, where m1 is 100, x1 is 0, plus m2 is 150, x2 is 0.5, m3 is 200, x3 is 0.25 by 100 plus 150 plus 200. Therefore, it is 0 plus 150 into 5 by 10, 750 by 10, it is 75, plus 200 into 25 by 100, nothing but 50. So this is 250 plus 200, 450. It is 125 by 450. So if we cancel 5 in each or 25 in each, 5 by 18. So the x coordinate of the center of mass is 5 by 18. Now we will find out the y coordinate of center of mass. So the y coordinates of the system is YCM is equal to m1 y1 plus m2 y2 plus m3 y3 whole divided by m1 plus m2 plus m3. So if you see the values, m1 is 100, its y coordinate is 0. So 100 into 0, where m2 is 150, its y coordinate is also 0. But m3 is 200, its y position is 0.25 root 3. Whole divided by 100 plus 150 plus 200. So YCM, nothing but the center of mass y coordinate is equal to 0 plus 0 plus 50 root 3 by 450. So it is 50 root 3 by 450. So 50 in 450, it will be cancelled by 9 times. So the answer is root of 3 by 9. It is also written as 1 by 3 root 3. So center of mass XCM comma YCM is equal to 5 by 18 comma 1 by 3 root 3. Now we will discuss about the position vector of center of mass. Let us consider some 3 particles which are located at different distances from the system of the origin. This is mass m1, which is at a distance r1, mass m2, which is at a distance r2, mass m3, which is at a distance r3. So it is mass mn, which is at a distance rn. So now this r1 is the position vector along m1, r2 is along m2, r3 is along m3, rn is along mn. So m1 comma m2 comma m3 and so on mn are the masses as long as r1 comma r2 comma r3 and so on rn are the position vectors. So if this is the case, we can write RCM, nothing but the position vector of the center of mass, is equal to M1R1 plus M2R2 plus M3R3 and so on, MnRn by M1 plus M2 plus M3 and so on, Mn. In short form, it can be written as RCM is equal to 1 by capital M into summation over Mi Ri, where I is equal to 1 to n. So we can write capital M is equal to sum of all point masses M1 plus M2 plus M3 plus so on Mn, where Mi Ri or M1R1, M2R2 are the position vectors along the RCM. So we can write R1 is equal to x1 I cap plus y1 j cap plus z1 k cap, such like that R2 is equal to x2 I cap for y2 j cap plus z2 k cap. Similarly, R3 is equal to x3 I cap, y3 j cap, z3 k cap. If center of mass coincides with the origin, then RCM will become 0, because position vector of the center of mass is equal to origin, where origin location is 0, 0. So in this case, 1 by capital M into summation over Mi Ri is equal to 0, where I is equal to 1 to n. Therefore, summation over I is equal to 1 to n into Mi Ri is equal to 0. This refers to Mi Ri is also equal to 0. If center of mass coincide with the origin, then the values will change like this. The next concept in this system of particles is center of gravity. We know that this gravity is related to the gravitational force. The net gravitational force acting on a body is called its weight. We know this. But what is the meaning of center of gravity? Suppose we took a planar lamina which is in a regular shape, or any other object which is in irregular shape or undefined shape. This body is treated as system of many point masses or particles. On each mass, gravitational force is acting. And we are saying that the point where the net gravitational force or weight acting on the body is called center of gravity. That means this point experiences the gravitational force, this point will experience the gravitational force, this point will experience, this point will experience. Maybe the positions of the points are at different levels, but all points are experiencing the same gravitational force with respective to each other. Suppose if we choose the condition of symmetry of this regular body which is in a regular shape, in these cases the force acting on one side is exactly equal to the force acting on the another side in magnitude but opposite in direction. In this case, there is such a point on the body where the resultant net gravitational force will become 0. If the resultant net gravitational force will become 0, then the body should be balanced by the weights on left side and right side, and then the body won't be tilted and the body won't fall down to any other side, and the body will be simply balanced. So we can see the example like this. Suppose if I try to balance this marker on my fingers, yes, if this is the case, it's not possible to balance it. Suppose if I move to further or move back, then I can able to balance this object. So what I can understand, suppose if I move this object to left side, this body is falling simply. If I move the body to the right side, and the body is simply not balancing. So at this region, we can expect some center of gravity. That means the gravitational force acting on the left side is equal to the gravitational force acting on the right side. Simply like a simple balance, what we are daily using in the olden days, that is the only way to measure the grocery. So the point on a body where the net gravitational force or the weight acting on it is called center of gravity. The point on the body where the net gravitational force or weight acting is called center of gravity. The condition for the center of gravity is weight on left side of object is equal to weight on right side of the object. So what we can understand from this, this is the symmetry condition. So exactly we can make the object into two equal halves. So the weight on left hand side, the weight on right hand side. So at this thin portion the body will be balanced. This is symmetry condition. If this net resultant force becoming 0, at that point the body will be balanced. The important points about the center of gravity and center of mass will be like this. It is nothing but the differences between center of mass and center of gravity. Center of mass is locus of all masses, means the entire mass of the body is appeared to be concentrated at one common point. Locus of all masses, or we can write locus of all point masses. But for the center of gravity we can say that this is the locus of all forces, nothing but the gravitational force. Forces. We can say it as gravitational force or weight. Center of mass explains about the motion of the bodies. It explains about the motion of the bodies. But center of gravity explains about the balance of the bodies. It explains about the balancing of bodies. For huge objects, such like a mountain rock or a tall tree, this type of huge objects, it is very difficult to find the exact location of center of mass and center of gravity. But due to some experiments, what is the result is, for huge objects, center of mass, center of gravity lies below the center of mass. For huge objects, center of gravity lies below the center of mass. But for the small objects which are in a regular shape, we can easily define its shape and dimensions. For those type of small objects, center of mass and center of gravity coincides with each other. So center of mass and center of gravity coincides with each other for small objects. The next concept is motion of center of mass. In this point, we should discuss about the position vector of the center of mass, rate of change in position vector, nothing but the velocity, and rate of change in velocity, nothing but the acceleration, and finally the force acting on the center of mass. These four are dependent on each other. So what we can understand is, first we should write the position vector of the center of mass. Previously we have discussed about the position vector of the center of mass. The equation is RCM, nothing but R represents the position vector, CM represents the center of mass. It is M1R1 plus M2R2 plus M3R3 plus so on MNRN whole divided by M1 plus M2 plus M3 plus so on Mn. If we see the denominator of this equation or this division method, this M1 plus M2 plus M3 and so on Mn is nothing but the sum of the all masses, nothing but there are n number of masses, so this is the sum of all masses. The sum of all masses we can write it as capital M. M1 plus M2 plus M3 and so on up to Mn is equal to capital M. We can write this one as total mass is equal to sum of all point masses. So RCM is equal to M1R1 plus M2R2 plus M3R3 and so on MNRN by capital M. So if we cross multiply this equation, we can write capital M RCM is equal to M1R1 plus M2R2 plus M3R3 plus MNRN. This explains about the position vector of the center of mass. Suppose if we differentiate this equation on both sides with respect to the given time and position, we will get its velocity, next acceleration, next momentum and force acting on it. So we will see the one by one. So the next one is velocity of center of mass. So we should differentiate the position vector equation with respect to time. So we got RCM is equal to M1R1 plus M2R2 plus M3R3 plus so on MNRN by M1 plus M2 plus M3 plus so on Mn. So now I am differentiating this one with respect to the given time. So M RCM is equal to M1R1 plus M2R2 plus m3 r3 and so on mn rn. So on differentiating with respect to time on each side of the equation. With respect to time on each side of the equation. So we can write this one as m into drcm by dt is equal to m1 into dr1 by dt plus m2 into dr2 by dt plus m3 into dr3 by dt plus so on mn into drn by dt. We are not applying the differentiation or the for masses because mass is constant, only position is changing with respect to the given time. So mass is an indivisible quantity. So that's why we can write this one as drcm by dt. Rate of change in position is nothing but the velocity. So therefore it is mvcm is equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2 plus m3 v3 and so on mn vn. We can say that mv, mass into velocity, is nothing but the momentum. So the total momentum of the center of mass is equal to sum of the each momentum. Therefore pcm is equal to p1 plus p2 plus p3 plus so on pn. So if we see the m is simply we are balancing on each sides m and small m's, we will get drcm by dt. vcm is equal to v1 plus v2 plus v3 plus vn. So vcm is equal to v1 plus v2 plus v3 plus so on vn. So this is the velocity of center of mass, and from this velocity resultant we have defined the momentum of the center of mass also. The next point is acceleration of the center of mass. So the momentum equation, we can write acceleration like this. So m into vcm is equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2 plus m3 v3 plus so on mn vn. This should be differentiate with respect to time on each side. So on differentiating the equation, on both sides. So m into dvcm by dt plus m1 into dv1 by dt plus m2 into dv2 by dt plus m3 into dv3 by dt plus so on mn into dvn by dt. Rate of change in velocity is nothing but the acceleration. Therefore we can write m acm is equal to m1 a1 plus m2 a2 plus m3 a3 and so on mn an. We should find out the acceleration. Therefore acm is equal to m1 a1 plus m2 a2 plus m3 a3 plus so on mn an by capital M. This is nothing but the acceleration of the center of mass. But mass into acceleration gives the result of the net external force acting on the body. So we can write this one as FCM. So therefore mass into acceleration is force, force of center of mass is equal to F1 plus F2 plus F3 plus so on Fn. So if we see the velocity or acceleration, force, momentum, whatever it is, the net resultant force is equal to the sum of the all forces acting on the all point masses. Net mass is equal to the sum of the all point masses. Net velocity is equal to the sum of the all point velocities which are associated with all point masses. So like this we can define a bulk body as the sum of small point mass particles. The next point is characteristics of center of mass. Characteristics of center of mass. Center of mass has many characteristics. First, if you want to explain, if you see the detailed explanation of center of mass, we should see the Newton's second law of motion, because in the concept of Newton's second law, force is equal to mass into acceleration, and he said that mass of the body is the reason behind the inertia experience it. So if you want to see the mass includes the center of mass. The result is explained by Newton's second law of motion. So this is the first basic about the center of mass. The second characteristic basic is the center of mass lies inside the body and sometimes outside the body also. It lies inside the body and outside the body also. For some uniform shapes, the center of mass lies at a point mass system or no point mass system also. It is like this. Some objects has center of mass where there is no mass. Means we can assume the center of mass in the absence of a mass also. Best example is a circular ring. A circular ring is a uniformly shaped body which has finite dimensions, finite radius and finite shape, finite width. All dimensions are finite which are measurable. For this circular ring, center of mass lies exactly middle. But at this middle position, it is very difficult to assume a mass. It is simply a massless position. So that's why mass of the body and nothing but the center of the body or center of the mass of the system lies at no mass body also. So it is a massless system. The nature of the center of mass simply depends upon the external forces acting on the body but independent upon the internal forces. So the nature or position, if position is possible, automatically velocity is also possible. So we can write our velocity is dependent on the external forces acting on the system. On the system, but not on internal forces. The location of the center of mass doesn't dependent on the shape of the body. It simply depends upon the distribution of mass around a fixed position. So center of mass is dependent upon the distribution of masses. We can say it as point masses also. So like this we can define a small few points about the characteristics of center of mass. The next concept is loss of motion of center of masses. As previously discussed, the center of mass motion can be explained on the basis of Newton's second law of motion. The second example is, if a net force is applied on the center of mass of the body, or nothing but the total shape of the body, along the body or along with the body, center of mass also will move. But center of mass will move in translatory motion. So if a net external force is applied on a body, the center of mass will undergo translatory motion. So it is a translatory motion. Rotatory is not possible. The third example is, as we know that the center of mass, the motion of the center of mass is influenced by the external forces, but not due to the internal forces. External forces can affect the motion of center of mass. Suppose if the acceleration of the body is 0, that means A is equal to 0, this refers to dV by dt is equal to 0. From this we can write velocity is constant. If velocity is constant, as well as momentum is also constant, because momentum is nothing but mass into velocity of the body. Mass is a constant one, along with that we are multiplying a constant physical quantity such like velocity. So velocity and momentum both will be constants. On which basis we can explain this loss of motion? For that purpose we should check some examples. The best example to understand the loss of motion of center of mass is solar system. Second example is explosion of a bomb.